I'm doing my best here as we're going to enjoy this Friday. But we still want to focus on what's happening on Sunday into Monday. And that's going to really set the stage and set the tone for the rest of the week. So taking advantage of today, really important. In terms of what's going on outside right now, it is quiet. Our temperatures are starting to come up in the low to mid 40s, even 50 degrees in Salem, 46 in Rolla, and 48 in Salem on the Illinois side. I do expect our wind over the next several hours is going to be out of the southwest at 10 to 15 miles an hour, gusts to 25, and there is actually even a higher fire danger as we start to dry things out just a little bit here. You'll see gusts upwards of 30 miles an hour are expected at times. Today, temperatures this morning, upper 40s. And then, honestly, we warm up quickly. A 10 to 15 mile an hour sustained wind, gusts upwards of 25. We have a 4 o'clock afternoon temperature in the low 70s. That's why we say get outside and enjoy it. Now, I do want to bring your attention to one thing on Saturday. We're going to start off, and I think it's a little warmer. What's changed is I think we may warm a little bit. This is the most recent run of Futurecast. I think we're going to get into the low to mid 60s here. But notice as we go from Jerseyville, Litchfield, Troy, versus Centerville and Farmington, there's a pretty good spread in temperatures. This front pushes through. I think we warm up enough, and then as that front passes through, a few light showers aren't out of the question. Once that moves through, then it gets cooler. Sunday morning, no problem whatsoever. And then we're going to see clouds increase throughout the day. So if you start off the day on Sunday, it will be dry, but it's going to be cooler. As clouds increase by 1 or 2 o'clock, notice this particular run of Futurecast. This is the most recently updated model. It usually comes through about this time. That's why I like to show you this extended cut here. By 4:30, 5 o'clock, notice this line of showers has started to push through, but look at the temperatures. 33 or 37 in Jerseyville, 35 Troy versus 45 to the south. Now, there's a dividing line that as I push through 6, 7 o'clock, I want to focus on because 33 here, low 40s here. We're still above freezing, but there is a dividing line where, honestly, where a lot of us are still above freezing. Now, I do think that we're going to see a mix of everything at this point along this transitional line, but as long as temperatures are above freezing, things are okay. Roadway surfaces, elevated surfaces could be slick. Then it may start to transition to that wet snow for some of us to the north. Even areas to the south, right? It will back and forth between, let's say, freezing rain, sleet, and snow. But the key for us here is I think our temperatures still are remaining above freezing. I think that's really important because that line will shift at times depending on how much of that warmer air is at the surface and aloft. And I think you're going to see that trend continue into the overnight hours of Monday. And this look at Futurecast brings that as well. And this is the one I really lines up with the way I've been thinking the last couple of days is it's hard to find cold air. And we're going to discuss why that is. When you look at the big picture, notice as I pause this at 2 o'clock on Sunday, this shows what I was expecting. Right? We don't have incredibly cold air to the north. We have upper 20s, low 30s, but we have 70s to the south. So that front that really is stationary is going to be around with us on Sunday night. Notice where our temperatures still are. And we really lack a big surge of colder air. And to me, as long as this is around in this fashion, it's going to be hard for us to really get as cold as perhaps you would want it to for not only accumulating snow, but freezing rain, things like that. We're still going to hover around the freezing mark in some of our northern areas. But when I show you model number 1, this is the one that was more aggressive in terms of snow and ice. That had this all the way down to the south. That continues to shift north. This is looking more along the lines of what we would kind of expect. So it's lining up with the other ones. Whereas we look at the second model, and that brings all this to the north, and we're kind of in between in a limbo. I don't expect it's going to be quite that separated, but I do think that we're still in that transitional line and more so on the rainy side, which is why we kind of come to the conclusion that as we look from late Sunday into early Monday, you're going to see that zone in question that changes from a cold rain to a mix. Right? I think a majority of us are dealing with that cold rain, and as we look to the north, there's wet snow. That's where I would expect Pike County, you're going to deal with some wet snow. But from Troy, St. Charles, St. Louis, along and north of I-70, that's a zone in question to me. I think you're going to see multiple precipitation types, but I'm not sure that really any of them are going to stick to the way that it's going to cause major impacts throughout the area. That's the best way to put it. Now, after that, I think there is significant liquid from this system and moisture the next few days where on average, we're looking at 3.5 inches of rain. Locally, higher totals are possible. Let's talk about the next 7 days here and the short term. 71 today. That's why we stress get outside. Front moves through 27 overnight. As we get into the night, one thing that I think is important as we focus on Monday into Tuesday is the fact that we have our temperatures that are going to have a problem getting below freezing. Some questions remain where that track is. It's starting to come together a little bit more, but the lack of cold air, that's our biggest question at this hour. Where are we going to see that? As far as I'm seeing right now, I think 33 is the lowest that we get. The next few days are rainy, and that's why I show you the 10-day forecast. Look at this, 50s, and I'm telling you, we start off with rain chances every single day the next 10 days in some fashion. I do think that it is going to be a very wet period, and believe it or not, honestly, as we get from Friday into Saturday, you could even be talking about a few thunderstorms that we're talking about. So that's the main story for us here as we look at a very wet setup for us the next few days.